Hey guys, this is Jay. Up next on the list is the steering box, and in front of me I have the replacement steering gear from RedHead steering gear boxes. This is going to be a quick one to go over because this is of course the stock case, but with some internal upgrades that they do, and so just reading off their website, this isn't applicable to all casings, but some manufacturers don't use bearings on all of the shafts. So one of the things that RedHead does, if the factory hasn't done it already, is they machine the housing out and replace any bushings with needle bearings. And in any of the shafts that have been worn down, they'll flame spray and remachine them if it's applicable, but if the shaft is too far gone, they'll just put a brand new one in. Any control valving or anything, they'll put a new valve in it. But one of the things that sets RedHead apart from all the other steering gear manufacturers is that this is what's called a recirculating ball steering gearbox. So there are some ball tracks that have loose ball bearings that just run and kind of wind through, and then they wrap back around and start that process over. And so, you know, if you're making a whole bunch of these, there's a tolerance associated with that, and on the factory ones, that can introduce a little bit of play simply because the ball bearings are just slightly undersized. And you know, that's commonly why people associate this type of steering gear with play in the steering wheel, just because those recirculating ball bearings are a little bit undersized. So RedHead, they custom fit every single worm and piston assembly with special ordered ball bearings. So there is zero play in the recirculating ball bearing setup. So that is going to translate to a much nicer feel at the steering wheel. And since I'm replacing all of the components, there shouldn't be any play in this steering. I mean, it's one of the unfortunate aspects of even buying a brand new OEM style one of these is that you can put everything new, and because those recirculating balls are a little bit small, you'll still have some play in the steering, even though everything is brand new. They also install every single sector shaft on a lathe to make sure it is straight and true, and then all of the sealing surfaces are polished to a higher degree of surface finish than the factory ones to ensure that this is not going to leak. A couple, housekeeping things for as far as returning the core. This does come with plugs in both of the ports, which you will need to transfer to the original one. And then they come with what they call thread preservation bolts in here. So these are of course not the mounting bolts. So you'll need to take these out and return these in the core. This is just to prevent the threads from being damaged during shipping. So having this next to the factory one, it's clear that this is a direct reinstall. They just use the factory case, so all the external dimensions are exactly the same. Just take the factory one off and put this one back on and get all the air out of the system, and you're good to go. So I'm excited to show this installed on the truck, and then see how much better the steering wheel feels when I've got that skid steer behind me. So stay tuned for that. One thing to note about installing the steering gear that I didn't realize, these mounting bolts right here, there's 3 of them, one of them's hiding up in there. There is an adjustment that is part of those bolts. So whenever before you remove your factory steering gear, make sure you mark it very clearly on the inner frame side where the steering gear goes, just to make sure you put the new one back in exactly the same place. Because whenever I took this in and get it aligned, they did have to loosen these bolts and center the steering gear properly so that the truck would align. One additional thing about the steering gear that is critical, whenever you remove the steering shaft from the steering gear, the steering wheel can free spin in the cab. It is critical that you do not turn it because there's a coil that works the airbag that will get damaged if the steering wheel is turned without being connected to anything. I had to learn that the hard way. But yeah, don't turn the steering wheel if it's disconnected from the steering linkage. Here's that coil I was talking about. You can see how the center portion connects to the steering shaft while the outside portion bolts to something in the steering column. Evidently, even though this can spin freely, there is a limit to its travel. So you might be able to get away with turning the steering wheel slightly, but if you're a little child on the inside like me and enjoy a free spinning steering wheel, don't enjoy that on your truck, because you won't enjoy having to replace this at the dealership. So yeah, fair warning, please don't turn the steering wheel. All right, got the truck out on the road now, and the road I've chosen is the Long Road here in Lexington, Kentucky. There's nice properties everywhere, many of which are horse farms, since this is the horse capital of the world. And this road is a perfect road to show you just how tight the steering is. Up here, as you can see by the sign, there's going to be some windy curves, and you'll see just how little steering input it takes me to get the truck through them safely. There is a little bit of play, which I'll show you at the end of this road whenever I get back out onto a straight section. But this truck is a joy to drive through roads like this. I mean, it's the play, though it is a little bit noticeable, it's not scary. I mean, you're not having to turn the wheel a lot further than you're expecting to get the truck to move in the opposite direction. I mean, it's very direct, and it goes where you point it. I mean, a 20-year-old truck that drives this tight is very pleasing to drive, and coming through roads like this is not a chore, whether you're just cruising around or you got a trailer or anything behind you. It's a very, very nice, relaxing drive, because you're not having to chase your steering wheel around as you go around the corners. So a couple more miles, which I'll of course edit out, and then I'll show you the play in the steering. Well, now that we're back out on the main road, I'm hoping this camera angle will show you just how little steering input I have to give this truck before it starts moving around in the lane. Once I get around this corner, I'll start tilting the steering wheel side to side just a little bit until it starts moving the truck, and you'll see how tight the steering is. So let me straighten the wheel back up so the wheel is straight, and then it's moving to the right, back to the left, to the right, to the left, just like that. And so I'll see if I can show you how much play is in the steering. So I can do this, and it's you won't be able to tell it on camera, but I'm moving the wheel until I feel it engage the steering. So that's all the play that there is in the steering. I mean, of course, I would have liked there to be zero play in the steering, but I don't have any footage of how bad it was before, but I can assure you that this is far tighter than it was with the original setup. And not necessarily all that was because of the steering gear. I mean, the ball joints and everything else were old on the old setup, but with everything new, I mean, this is great. I'm very pleased with it, and again, you know, perfect world there would be no play, but this is certainly manageable, and it's very easy to drive. And I hope this footage and also the footage on that country road shows that, and hopefully once I get through the rest of these videos and can get that skid steer behind this thing again, I'm sure you'll be able to see just how confident this truck is with weight behind it, and the steering is very stable, and it's easy to control even with an 11,000 pound trailer behind it. And it certainly, as you saw in the last upgrade Lowdown series, it's got the power to move it too. I'm excited to show you the skid steer towing for all of those aspects, the power capabilities of this truck, and just how good and tight the steering is. So please stay tuned for those. All right, well, hopefully that last bit of footage where I was showing you what it's like behind the wheel showed you everything you need to know about how much better this steering is with that RedHead steering gearbox. The steering is so tight, as I've already said, and I'm very pleased with it. It's so much better than what I took out, and I really wasn't expecting it to be that much better. That's what's been so awesome about this whole build on the front end, is that I really didn't think the stuff I had on the truck was that bad. You know, I wanted to bring awareness to what's out there for people who do have steering and braking issues. But man, I guess I had some issues too, and I didn't realize it. So this truck is so much better now. But yeah, as I said at the beginning, this is going to be a short segment because the gearbox is a stock unit with internal upgrades, so there's nothing else for me to show you other than how the truck drives.
But I did want to share something exciting. I've been working on my aluminum and stainless TIG welding skills because I've got a really neat project for the truck that I've been working on, and I'm hoping to wrap it up next week so I can actually share it in the next video. So I'm going to take a quick break from this series on the upgrades to the front end and show you something else I've been working on. But the next video in the front end upgrade series will be the PSC high output power steering pump. But please stay tuned for the next video because I hope you'll enjoy this project I'm working on as much as I do. It's really neat, and it's something that I think is very necessary for these trucks, and there's not an off-the-shelf kit available for what I'm going to do. So it's kind of a bit of a teaser since I'm not telling you exactly what it is, but I'm hoping that means you'll be eager to see the next video whenever it comes out. So thanks for watching, and remember, if it's smoking, it's broken.